Mr. President, Mr. Provost, Madam Secretary, college heads, deans, colleagues, friends, families, and most of all, women and men of the class of 2017, welcome to this day. Baccalaureate is one of the major markers of your Yale journey, and it serves as the closing bookend to the late summer of 2013 when you gathered in the same space for your freshman assembly. Baccalaureate invites you to pause during what is an exhausting weekend. So please, take a deep breath, slowly exhale, and invest yourself in this moment. I now call on the university chaplain.
My sisters and brothers, I invite you to join me in the spirit of prayer. Almighty and loving God, you are the one who gives us this day and all our days. In the majesty of this life moment, we, your beloved children, of different colors, creeds, generations, stories, and tongues, are gathered in this place as one human family, united in jubilant celebration. We are filled with gratitude for our families, friends, teachers, and guides. Their arms have sheltered us, their shoulders have boosted us, and today their hearts soar for us. Eternal God, it is you who calls us to our full humanity. As we celebrate our accomplishments, we are humbled and overwhelmed by what lies ahead. Let us continue to caress the beauty of your creation, and may our souls know true delight as we awaken to the wonder and the mystery of our own unfolding lives. Through unity of mind and spirit, hold us ever close as we seek to leaven your world wisely in the steadfast pursuit of your light and your truth. For this we say, Amen.
Om, that which pervades earth, sky, and heaven, which is worthy of worship, that has no beginning, that which is the light of wisdom and truth. Let us meditate on the radiance of that divinity. May that brilliance help inspire and illuminate our minds. That one which represents water, light, and is the quintessence in all things. May that Almighty Spirit pervading the earth, atmosphere, and heaven bless us with enlightenment.
Send forth your light and your truth. They will lead me. They will bring me to your holy mountain, to your dwelling place, that I may come to the altar of God. God, my delight, my joy, that I may praise you with the harp. O God, my God.
You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your God in heaven.
God is the light of the heavens and earth. The likeness of his light is that of a niche in which there is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass. The glass is, as it were, a brilliant star lit from a blessed tree, an olive tree, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil seems to glow, even no fire has touched it. Light upon light, God guides whom he wills to his light. God makes parables for humanity, and God has knowledge of everything.
On this occasion, it is customary for the president to deliver a baccalaureate address and for the dean of Yale College to offer a few readings. 4 years ago, you came here as strangers, but now you leave here as friends. Think about that. Think about how much you have changed since you arrived. Think about all the differences that defined those initial moments when you met your suitemates and thought, maybe with some inward alarm, how is this going to work for an entire year? Is he really going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day? Is she really going to leave her laundry on the floor all semester? Wow, I never knew I had such strong feelings about country, rock, classical, electronica, jazz, trip-hop, emo. When you think back on those fragile first days, it is a miracle that a community was born out of so much difference. It's impossible to know precisely what makes that happen, even in hindsight. But every year, a new group of implausibly different people from every corner of the globe begins to turn into friends for life. You will soon be leaving here with your degrees, but what you will take with you into the world every day is the community and the sense of community that you have formed here. I ask you to join me for the next few minutes thinking about that. What makes a community? Is a community made by its memories? For a thoughtful engagement with these questions, I turn to Elisha Cooper, a 1993 graduate of Yale College, who was in my discussion section when I was a graduate student, and who since then has written with grace about a particular community, his own family. In his book, Falling, Cooper writes about his two young daughters and how he wrestles with the stresses and tensions and transcendences that are part of belonging to a family. But the metaphor easily extends to something as large and complicated as a Yale community. He writes, "Daily rhythms create memories. Walks to school, breakfasts around the kitchen table. This is why I take my daughters to cafes after school, and we drink hot chocolate and sit in the same seats and look out the same window. Our days accumulate. Painful memories, like 7th grade, are unavoidable, but maybe our good memories can sit next to our painful memories and watch over them, cushion them, and soften their jagged edges. Good memories hold us. We create them every day by walking out the door or looking across a field. Surely time and forgetfulness help too, but I like to think we are protected by the memory of chocolate. Sometimes I think we are memories. I mean, humans are memories. We are the stories we tell and the experiences we share. In what must be the greatest miracle of chemistry, we are able to enter into the memories of those we love. We burrow into them, down into their cells. In this way, I hope I can nestle into my children, into the smallest part of them, and will always be with them. What makes a community? Is a community made by its values? You came here expecting rightly to go on to do great things. For me, it does not matter what you do, but how you do it. Go to the daycare center, the executive suite, the laboratory, the equities market, the judicial chambers, the savannah. Wherever you do the labor of the world after you graduate, invest yourselves in it, but also commit yourselves to open inquiry and understand that our fates are linked. In his new book on tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century, my colleague and eminent historian Timothy Snyder speaks to the importance of this commitment. He uses the lessons of the past to remind us that our present and future rest on a gossamer structure of social interaction in which we are all active participants. I draw here from 3 lessons. First, defend institutions. It is institutions that help us to preserve decency. They need our help as well. Do not speak of our institutions unless you make them yours by acting on their behalf. Institutions do not protect themselves. They fall one after the other unless each is defended from the beginning. So choose an institution you care about, a court, a newspaper, a law, a labor union, and take its side. Second, believe in truth. To abandon facts is to abandon freedom. If nothing is true, then no one can criticize power because there is no basis upon which to do so. If nothing is true, then all is spectacle. Third, make eye contact and small talk. This is not just polite. It is part of being a citizen and a responsible member of society. It is also a way to stay in touch with your surroundings, break down social barriers, and understand whom you should and should not trust. If we enter a culture of denunciation, you will want to know the psychological landscape of your daily life. What makes a community? Is a community made up of the unacknowledged? Through her poetry, Lucille Clifton asks us to broaden our understanding of who can be an expert, of who can be a vital contributing member of our society, of who, in fact, helps define a community. As I read her poem, think about the dining hall workers, the custodians, the grounds crew, and the administrative assistants you have seen or even better come to know during your Yale career. Think about how they have made your life easier, more complete, and more meaningful. Recognize their expertise and labor. Remember how they used their skills to support you. Thank them. Study the masters, like my Aunt Timmy. It was her iron, or one like hers, that smoothed the sheets the master poet slept on. Home or hotel, what matters is he lay himself down on her handiwork and dreamed. She dreamed too. Words, some Cherokee, some Maasai, and some huge and particular as hope. If you had heard her chanting as she ironed, you would understand form and line and discipline and order and America. What makes a community? It is made up of memories, values, and the unacknowledged. It is also made up of you. When I look at you, I see many things: love, contestation, ideology, zaniness, pride, brilliance, insecurity, creativity, P-sets, essay deadlines, Wenzels, more P-sets, woads, chicken tenders, and Cape Shark. As you leave, you'll have to explain it to your parents. As you leave this place, remember these things. Remember what you have given to this community and it to you. Remember the transcendent as well as the chocolate. Remember to articulate and defend your values. Remember to acknowledge the work and skill and care of those who labor invisibly on your behalf. Remember to understand your role in helping this and future communities realize their potential. Most of all, remember the story of your community wherever you make it, and then tell others what you see. It is only through the telling of these stories that we can ever help our communities become the light that is in the truth. I leave you with an excerpt from Frank O'Hara's Having a Coke with You. I look at you, and I would rather look at you than all the portraits in the world, except possibly for the Polish writer occasionally, and anyway, it's in the Frick, which thank heavens you haven't gone to yet so we can go together for the first time. And the fact that you move so beautifully more or less takes care of futurism. Just as at home, I never think of the nude descending a staircase, or at a rehearsal, a single drawing of Leonardo or Michelangelo that used to wow me. And what good does all the research of the Impressionists do them when they never got the right person to stand near the tree when the sun sank? Or for that matter, Marino Marini, when he didn't pick the rider as carefully as the horse. It seems they were all cheated of some marvelous experience, which is not going to go wasted on me, which is why I'm telling you about it. Women and men of the class of 2017, it has been an honor and a privilege to be of service to your community. Take care of it, take care of each other, and take care of yourselves. Thank you, and congratulations.
Before I begin, class of 2017, guests, families, members, might you join me in thanking Dean Holloway for his service to Yale and wishing him luck as the next provost of Northwestern University? Graduates of the class of 2017, family members, and friends, it's so good to be here with you today. A day filled with joy and hope, and I'm sure a bit of pride as well. There's a wonderful Yale tradition that I'd like to honor right now. May I ask all of the families and friends here today to rise and recognize the outstanding and graduating members of the class of 2017. And now, class of 2017, may I ask you to consider all those who have supported your arrival at this milestone and to please rise and recognize them. So, last month, I flew to California to celebrate Passover with my family. As many of you know, this is the holiday that memorializes the experiences of Jews as slaves in Egypt and then celebrates their deliverance from bondage. Through reading a liturgical text called the Haggadah and eating ritual foods, everyone at the Passover Seder is invited to reflect on this history as if they had experienced it themselves. The Passover themes of slavery and freedom resonate as clearly today as they did millennia ago. Many contemporary Haggadot reference modern struggles, such as African Americans' fight for emancipation and civil rights, and present-day efforts to end human trafficking. My family uses the traditional Haggadah, sponsored by Maxwell House Coffee since 1932. Apparently, it was also used by former President Obama at the White House's annual Seder. My favorite passage comes early in the evening. We are reminded that because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, we therefore must welcome strangers to our own Seder. We recite, "Let all those who are hungry enter and eat. All who are in distress, come and celebrate Passover with us." These sentiments go a long way back. They're written in Aramaic, the everyday spoken language of much of the Middle East from 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, so that they could be easily understood by those who might have responded to the offer. In the past, the head of the household might open the door to the home and read these words, inviting all who passed to come and join in the celebration. Remembering what it was like to be a stranger is not only important at Passover. We're told repeatedly in the Jewish scripture to show kindness towards strangers. The Torah warns against harming a stranger anywhere from 35 to 46 distinct times, depending on how you translate it. In Exodus, we are told, "You shall not wrong a stranger or oppress him, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." Elsewhere in Exodus, this is written, "For you were strangers in a strange land." That's the inspiration for the title of the popular science fiction novel by Robert Heinlein. And again in Leviticus, we read, "When a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt." Judaism is not alone in this concern for the stranger. In the parable of the Last Judgment, Jesus says, "I was a foreigner, and you welcomed me." In his interpretation of this passage, the Bishop Emeritus of the Archdiocese of Hartford, Peter Rosaza, says that welcoming the foreigner is equivalent to welcoming Jesus. Later in the Epistle to the Hebrews, we are advised, "Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by this some have entertained angels without knowing it." Imagine if all strangers, all foreigners, were treated as if they were divine messengers. The Quran instructs Muslims similarly, "And do good unto your parents and near of kin, and unto orphans and the needy, and the neighbor from among your own people, and the neighbor who is a stranger, and the friend by your side, and the wayfarer." There's an ancient Hindu scripture that says the guest is equivalent to God. Hospitality to guests and strangers, called Manushya Yagna, is one of the 5 great sacrifices to be carried out daily according to Vedic practice. Turning back to the Old Testament, we find this reminder worded a bit differently from the others. "You shall not oppress a stranger, as you yourself know the feelings of a stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." This is also translated quite beautifully as, "For you know the heart of a stranger." Okay. Psychologists, and I'm a psychologist, call this kind of understanding, knowing the heart of another, empathy, and have linked it to acting ethically and morally. We're more likely to treat other people well if we can find ways to empathize with them. Here, we are told how to act, how not to mistreat strangers, because we can understand their feelings, their hearts. But is it easy to show empathy? Not always. This is one reason why no group, no religion, has ever completely lived up to its own ideals regarding the treatment of outsiders. Intolerance and oppression have been a ubiquitous feature of many human societies. When we are feeling loss, threat, or fear, it is hard for us to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. In fact, stressful and uncertain times may lead us to point fingers at others, to search for convenient scapegoats, rather than empathize with them. Today, it is not only the immigrants and refugees among us who are strangers in a strange land. Across the United States and even across the world, we have all become strangers to each other. We find it difficult to understand and engage perspectives with which we disagree. We can't imagine how people in our own country can feel and act as they do. And despite being in constant communication, we feel increasingly disconnected from one another. In the last 30 years, according to a recent article in Forbes, the number of Americans who report that they have no friends, 0, has tripled. How can this be? How can this be when we can friend hundreds of individuals on social media with the tap of a finger? Yet, the more one's life is oriented around the internet, the lonelier one tends to be. It's easier to email, text, and tweet than to put away our smartphones and make a new friend with a living, breathing human. This is not a new phenomenon, and the internet may actually attract more than its fair share of blame. At the turn of the 20th century, the French sociologist Émile Durkheim wrote about the emergence of anomie, a sense of being unmoored or unconnected to social norms and institutions. He thought that great changes in his lifetime, the rise of industry, mass production, the growth of cities, were responsible for these feelings of disconnect. A century later, but a few years before concerns about the internet and social media started to shape this conversation, political scientist Robert Putnam used the vivid metaphor of bowling alone to describe the general breakdown of traditional social networks in contemporary society. Putnam found that we are no longer a community of joiners. We no longer define ourselves by clubs and civic organizations that represent our hobbies and our interests. So what happens when social ties weaken? How do we feel secure when we are no longer embedded deeply in social networks or community groups? One possible outcome is that we retreat into ourselves. We may spend a lot of time staring into the mirror, attending only to information that is consistent with our pre-existing beliefs. We focus on our own doubts, our own vulnerabilities, our own preoccupations. We become isolated. We become lonely. We have all known the long loneliness, wrote Dorothy Day, and we have learned that the only solution is love, and that love comes with community, as our dean just told us. Without community, without empathy, we cannot see ourselves in the eyes of the strangers among us. Instead, those strangers are at best ignored, and at worst, demonized. And despite the teachings of Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and many other traditions, to the contrary, we no longer welcome the strangers to our table. Rather, we build walls to keep them away from us. Perhaps on a beautiful sunny afternoon in the last 4 years, you took a walk over to the Grove Street Cemetery, and you found the tombstone of Kingman Brewster, Yale's 17th president. Brewster led this university during a tumultuous period in its history and in the nation's history. He oversaw coeducation and tried to keep the peace while the Black Panther trials were held in New Haven. Brewster's epitaph reads, "The presumption of innocence is not only a legal concept. In common law and in common sense, it requires a generosity of spirit toward the stranger, the expectation of what is best rather than what is worst in each other." Brewster was familiar with conflict. He knew how deeply people could disagree with one another, how fear and misunderstanding could divide them. Yet he expected the best in others. That was his common sense. Let it be ours too. Empathy is a powerful tool. Ta-Nehisi Coates, the writer and social critic, has called for a muscular empathy rooted in curiosity. Such a muscular empathy should inspire us and spur us to action, to serve others and our communities. Members of the class of 2017, you've just spent 4 years on a campus that strives to be welcoming and inclusive. You've made lasting friendships with people from a variety of backgrounds and walks of life. Although you were strangers to each other when you met, together you helped build a strong community here at Yale. You have all stood up and sang, "The seasons come, the seasons go. The earth is green or white with snow, but time and change shall not avail to break the friendships formed at Yale." I urge you to take these experiences out into the world, a world that desperately needs your service, your curiosity, and yes, your empathy. I hope you identify with the plight of the other, walking a mile in the shoes of a stranger. By welcoming guests, by doing good to strangers, by knowing the hearts of others, you may well entertain angels. Members of the class of 2017, please rise. As you go onto a world that is all before you, hand in hand with wandering steps and slow, bring to that world all that your Yale education has given you. The ability to appreciate complexity even while seeking simplicity. To engage critically even while listening respectfully. To recognize your responsibilities while finding pleasure in your new communities. And to welcome into these communities the strangers among us. We are delighted to salute your accomplishments, and we are proud of your achievements. Remember to give thanks for all that has brought you to this day, and go forth from this place with grateful hearts, paying back the gifts you have received here by using your minds, your voices, and your hands to strengthen your new communities and your world. Congratulations, class of 2017.
May God bless you and keep you. May the Eternal One show you favor and be gracious to you. May the Holy One cause light to shine upon you and grant you peace. And let us say, Amen.